Yo, what's up? What's up? Had to do it, man. Had to just go outside for a little quick walk. Yo, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, Prince Sports. I'm gonna get a little basketball debate on, so to speak. What is the greatest team, or which team is the greatest team in NBA history, do you think? Now, off the bat, I'm going to exclude teams from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Not because of the simple fact that I wasn't really watching those teams. Just for the simple fact that they're so old that it's hard to judge them or give them the fair right criticism that they deserve. Because you can even check on things like here in YouTube, you won't have that much footage of those so-called great teams. And there wasn't even free agency to a certain extent. So teams stayed the same way, and one team would constantly win the championship over and over again with little pushback or challenges headed towards their way. Now, what I do want to talk about is teams from the 80s, 90s, until now, okay? So, now, greatest basketball teams of all time. Who would be number one in my book? Now, there's a lot of good teams, okay? You got some honorable mentions. You have the Miami Heat with Wade and LeBron. Even though I think that Miami Heat team with Wade and LeBron was just a little too old. Well, at least Wade was a little too old by the time they got together. And I think they would have been on this list even more if Wade and LeBron got drafted together, you know, and somehow Chris Bosh was on that team for the ride too. They would easily been one of the greatest teams of all time for the simple fact that they would have more money on the salary cap, and they would have been able to afford better players than they originally had on that team. Because remember, when they first got together, those three guys ate up so much of the salary cap. They didn't have that much deep role players until 2012, and that's when they won the championship. And even when they won the championship in 2012 and 13, those guys was getting old, you know, and pretty much out of their prime. The only guy that was really in his prime was LeBron and Chris Bosh, so to speak. A lot of those guys were they were done for, right? So we have to take them off the list because of those reasons. Another LeBron team would be the team with Kyrie Irving and LeBron. I think that was a good duo, but they go on the list of wish they could play more together. I wish those guys played more together, LeBron and Kyrie, or had like more of a bigger history. They probably would have won more championships if they played together more. Because and you add that trio with Kevin Love, that was a good team. You know, they could easily have won 2 or 3 championships. I mean, if circumstances were different, you know, due to injuries and, you know, and guys not getting along, the team had to break up. So another LeBron team is off the map. And that leaves us to LeBron team with Anthony Davis. That automatically won't be on the list. For starters, LeBron is almost on his way out the door. Anthony Davis is the only true in-prime player on that team, and the rest of that team is just spare parts. I can't even nominate that team for the greatest. So, the greatest team, it would be more than just role players. It would have to be superstars and role players coming together and fitting just well. If I could just narrow it down to one year, I would say 2 teams on my mind that I think are the greatest teams of all time, and I think they're tied, or very close to being tied. That's the 96 Bulls and the 2017 Golden State Warriors. That Golden State Warriors team could have won a championship in any era. I don't care what it is. And that team being together like that, imagine if they played together for a longer time and they grow chemistry with each other. They could very well have beaten the 96 Bulls a season or 2. I think it would have went back and forth. So the greatest teams to me, I would have to say, is by default, I have to put the Bulls number one because they three-peated. Remember, I go by the criteria of and what you accomplish with that team. Unfortunately, the Warriors didn't stay together long enough, but they did win 2 chips. They could have easily won 4 out of 5 championships if injuries didn't play a part. That's another thing with that team. It always seems the injuries kind of hurt them a lot. But think about that team, for example. Okay, you put that team in any era. You had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, 2 of the greatest shooters of all time. Okay, now I don't care what era you put them in, they still could shoot the basketball. Okay, so you got to take that aspect out, and don't be an old man get off my lawn type of thing. Because if you look at that, put those 2 guys in the 90s, there'd be Reggie Miller, and we all know Reggie Miller was an all-star in the 90s, shooting threes. So imagine those 2 guys shooting threes, and Steph Curry is considered the greatest three-point shooter of all time to many people. So I don't give a crap what era it is. Steph Curry going to get his regardless, even if he's not going to be considered the quote-unquote man. Then you got that another one of the greatest shooters for bigs of all time is Kevin Durant. He could give it to you inside, outside. Kevin Durant is a flat-out scorer. This guy could score. Jordan, I think, would get the best of him a season or 2, but he definitely probably would won and beat that Bulls team with that Warriors team for a season or 2 as well. So I think it would have went back and forth. Same thing like Kobe and Shaq. So another team you have to put on that list is Kobe and Shaq. But what I don't like about Kobe and Shaq's early 2000 Lakers is the simple fact that when you think of them, all you think of is Kobe and Shaq. The rest of those guys, I can't really just put them on that list for being like great role players to that respect, even though they were great role players. But like of all time, then I pair it with team for team, they seem to come up a little short to me. Even though they had Ron Harper, who was also on that 96 Bulls. So if you're comparing those 2 teams together, he would have to check himself, right? He would have to guard himself. But 3 of the greatest teams I have ever seen in NBA history is the Bulls 96, 2017 Golden State Warriors, and the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. I know Shaq and Kobe won more, okay? They three-peated together. I understand that. But, the Warriors was just more of a dominant team to me because they went to the finals every year. And I think that Warriors team would have beaten the San Antonio Spurs because that was the main team that's standing in front of the Lakers' way sometimes. The reason why they weren't so dominant going to the championship every year. So those are the 3 greatest teams of all time to me. And it'd have been awesome if all those teams was in the same era, but keep in mind, each era is different. Michael Jordan's era was more physical. This is a fact. I'm going to tell you why it was more physical. Because the average player in Jordan's era only lasted about 10 years or less. Jordan was really only great for 13 years of his career. Now, if he never retired, that could have been shorter because the 90s was so grueling and it took a toll on your body a little more to the point that guys aren't as freelance as they are now because you can't really touch nobody, which prolongs an all-star's career, meaning that an all-star like LeBron or Kobe, they could last a little longer. They could last 2 decades because of the simple fact that it preserves them a little more. I think I guess it helps the NBA more because you can see your favorite player play longer. But think of all the injuries the guys had in the 90s, careers cut short due to physical play. Grant Hill, Penny Hardaway, okay, the list goes on and on. Great players, but they couldn't reach that milestone because they kept getting hurt. So if you throw the Golden State Warriors into the 90s era, I don't care what era they are in, I think they still will win championships. Physical or not, when you're just that much firepower, you got it. That team was stacked from top to bottom, man. And the Warriors had it. They had all-stars and they had role players stacked. So did the Bulls. So that's why I got them tied. 96 Bulls had Tony Kukoc and Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was one of the greatest defensive players of all time. He could guard anybody. Okay? And he would have gave a guy like LeBron even fits sometimes. LeBron would get the best of him, but he would give LeBron fits because of his attitude. And LeBron has been known to mentally break down sometimes. So Dennis Rodman would have been all up in you know what against LeBron James. He would have rubbed Kevin Durant the wrong way too. So Kevin Durant is kind of sensitive. But nevertheless, the two greatest teams I have ever seen in NBA history is the 96 Bulls, Golden State Warriors, 2017. Peace. What's your favorite team? Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe.